Hey guys, welcome to my podcast where we talk about entrepreneurship, content creation, and sustainability. Today we're shooting at the Pod Hub Beirut and we have a very special guest, Antoine Kanaan. He is the founder of Haqq and he's joining us in the studio today. Thank you for coming, Antoine.
Paolo, thanks a lot. Lovely setup.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to hear this. And it's an honor to have you, here. Did I get this right? Are you the founder of Haqq or you have any co-founders?
I'm the co-founder of Haqq.
Okay.
I'm the CEO. My co-founder, Matt Abbas Abadan, he's a lawyer. He's a managing partner.
Okay.
And he's also the chief legal officer and he leads product design in the company. And we work like a team. We're a very dynamic duo. And I think part of the reason we've become so successful is because we have someone who's very good at the business side of things and someone who really understands the product and the market.
So, awesome. So, take me back to the moment where you first started Haqq. What inspired you to start it?
Initially I got a phone call from a woman in Alexandria, Egypt. Her name was Noor. And, unfortunately, she was getting abused by her husband and she wanted to find a divorce lawyer. So what happened was she gave me a call because I was at that time the editor-in-chief of the Lebanon Law Review and we used to publish all these articles. So she sort of trusted me. She gave me this call and she's like, hey, I need help finding a lawyer. And so we helped her. And I was talking to Abbas about it. And after, helping her and many others find lawyers, Matt Abbas, he really showed me the lack of digitization in the legal industry as a whole. He really showed me how it's tough for law firms to digitize, to find good software. And so we created Haqq to help the legal industry, which is the world's last trillion-dollar industry. Can you believe it? We created Haqq to help the world's last trillion-dollar industry migrate from pen and paper-based systems to an AI operating system, just digitizing justice. That's what we do.
So, can you tell me a little bit how are you digitizing justice?
Yeah, so, we look at who needs help in the legal industry and we've created specific applications and products for every single one of them. For example, for lawyers, we've created this practice management solution called the eFirm, and they use it to digitize their office, right? They use it to cut down on expenses and to grow their revenues. For people like you and me who aren't lawyers but are looking for lawyers, we've created the legal directory online where they can find and hire any lawyer in the world at the click of a button, okay? And for other legal institutions like the bar associations or the courts, we've created specific solutions like the e-bar and the e-courts that really helps cement things together. And that's how we're doing it.
Wow. So I mean, definitely there's a lack of technology in the legal space, right? And you're filling that gap. But what would you say is the problem that Haqq is solving?
I think that's the problem.
Okay.
Because right now, what's technology, right? Technology,
app, website, AI.
Yeah. but it's more, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how we experience technology.
Okay.
But in my view, technology is just something that helps us do more and do better and do faster, right?
Okay.
More, better, faster. So when it comes to the justice industry, and this is people's livelihoods, this is their rights, this is stuff that they need, okay? Having it all run on a fragmented bureaucracy, having it all run on pen and paper just makes it slow, makes it so that less people get justice, and makes it so that there are more miscarriages of justice because communication and work doesn't really flow that quick, right?
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be someone getting abused by their husbands. It doesn't have to be someone, undergoing some sort of criminal offense. It could be something aspirational, like you're a founder of a business. What would you do without lawyers? You can't even start a business, you can't sign a contract, you can't do anything of that.
100%.
So if you're living in an AI world and your lawyer is living on pen and paper, it's going to be tough to do business.
Very tough.
So this is what we do. We make the entire economy run better because we help lawyers that are the bedrock of the economy run better.
Okay. But don't you think AI can replace the lawyer not for everything, but like for the simple contracts, simple agreements between businesses and others?
I think that's a fantastic question. And it really comes down to the question, what is the lawyer? What is a lawyer? That's the question. Because if a lawyer is just someone that writes contracts, then yeah, And you don't even need to wait for AI,
Yeah.
right? You can just go to any template
Okay.
of the internet and
Yeah.
there's your lawyer, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what lawyers do. You hire a lawyer because you want someone you trust. You hire a lawyer because you want someone to hold accountable. You hire a lawyer because they know better than you.
Okay.
So the gap isn't that you need a lawyer just to write a contract. You could write a contract. I could write a contract.
Yeah.
Neither one of us is a lawyer. It's that you hire a lawyer because you trust someone to do the job you don't know how to do
Okay.
or you can't, right?
Okay.
So in my view, lawyers aren't going anywhere.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But I mean, it's interesting how you're using technology and like sort of riding the wave instead of like trying to block it somehow.
I think we're making the wave.
Yeah.
I don't think we're riding the wave. I
Nice.
think we're making the wave
Nice.
of technology with lawyers, because before Haqq, have you ever heard of a technology solution for lawyers in the Middle East? I haven't
Never.
heard of any.
Never.
Right? I'm sure other people tried, but we hadn't heard of any. And to make a wave, you need to make people hear of you. And I think the biggest obstacle to adoption of technology is just awareness. It's about getting lawyers and professionals in the legal industry to understand how technology can be their friend. We don't want them to think technology is the enemy. Technology isn't here to replace anyone. It's here to make everyone work better.
What would you say is the biggest risk you took in making what Haqq is today?
That's a funny question, because as an entrepreneur, you take a risk every time you wake up.
Yeah.
And you take a risk every time you go to sleep. Every decision has risk, But in my opinion, risk isn't real. And this is something I really stand by. I don't believe in risk. I really don't believe in risk. Because in my opinion, what you do is more deterministic
Okay.
than probabilistic. I don't believe in luck. I think you do what you do, and if you do it well enough, you'll get the outcome you want. And if you don't, just try again.
Okay.
I'm not a big believer in risk, but definitely starting the company in war-torn Lebanon, starting the company in really an unstable environment worldwide, that's definitely a risk. Doing what we did, the way we grew, some of the tactics we used, I think every step was quote unquote a risky step. But I also believe that is the way. And I don't think you can really succeed unless you put yourself in a position where you're liable to fail.
Okay. I like it. It brings me to the question, what's one failure or mistake you made that was a blessing in disguise? So, in other terms, it was the worst day of your life, something really bad happened, but if that didn't happen, or if that happened the way you wanted it back then,
Right.
probably you would have ended in a worse scenario today. So did that happen? And can you tell me about it?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that happened. And I think that's happened with everyone. And I would say the biggest mistakes you ever make as a founder or as a CEO or whatever it is a mistake of you not being able to assess things properly.
Okay.
It's a judgment mistake. I think.
Okay.
Because what's a founder's job really? It's to make the right decisions. Okay, and sometimes the bigger the decision, right? If you make the wrong decision, it can go really, really bad, really quick. So one of the things that I did that I shouldn't have done was bad hiring,
Okay.
right? Especially starting a tech business when it's my first tech business. No, it's not my first business, but it's our first collectively. It's our first tech business. You need to be able to hire properly and effectively, and a bad hire is 1,000 times worse than no hire.
Yeah.
Okay. You need to make sure you hire the right people. You're hiring for the right values. You're hiring for the right culture. You need to make sure they have the skills. You need to make sure you're aligned with this person, on a personal level before you talk about anything professional. And maybe that was something that I had to learn the hard way. And I think every founder's made this mistake, right? I'm pretty sure you've interviewed a lot of founders. You ask them, what's the top mistake? 9 times out of 10, it's hiring. And it's something you learn.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to get the answer where, I live by, for example, I live by the saying in Arabic that's لا تكره شيئا لعله خيرا.
Right.
So when did the thing you hate happen and what was it?
Paul. I'm not gonna say any names, all right,
Yeah,
out of respect to people. But definitely, what I can say is, what's a tech company? A tech company is the technology and the distribution,
Yeah.
right? And so I've made mistakes in hiring for both. And on the technology side, some of our first technology hires didn't really work out, and that pushed our launch date back a year.
Okay.
Okay,
You needed it? Did you need to push it?
we couldn't. We couldn't. The bad hire made it so that we couldn't really launch, and so that obviously wasted a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of momentum. But it is what it is. And then we launched, and then we're good now. So, in my experience, no mistake is fatal unless you let it kill you.
Okay.
That's my experience.
But did that failure or mistake, that setback, did it impact you in a positive way later, or was it just bad?
No, it's just bad.
Yeah.
Just bad.
Okay.
But definitely because it was bad and it
Yeah.
happened and it went out of my system and everyone's system and it's in the past,
Mm-hmm.
that allowed us to move on to a much better technology team. Right now we have more than 30 engineers worldwide. Most of them are based in the States, in Silicon Valley. So we have some of the best engineers on the planet working for Haqq. And I'm really proud of that, right?
Wow.
And we couldn't have gotten here without going through there. But it is what it is, right? So
Have you ever felt like quitting?
yeah, every day. Every day when I wake up and every day when I go to sleep. And sometimes in the middle when I'm hungry and I'm waiting for lunch, I feel like quitting. Who doesn't?
Okay.
But it's not about what you feel like. It's about doing what you need to do.
100%. But what drives you? Like you're telling yourself, I need to do it. What is the drive? What is the motivation?
Honestly, love of the game.
Okay.
Honestly, love of the game. I'm a big believer in what we do. We're missionaries, not mercenaries, everyone in the company. And we try and hire for missionaries. About 30% of the team are ex-founders or ex-entrepreneurs, and they left whatever they're doing. They left their own business to come work for us at Haqq. And it's because we're all missionaries. We really believe that we're digitizing justice, and we really believe this has a global impact. And we really believe in how big this could get. We really believe this could be a multi-billion-dollar business.
Definitely.
So we're building it that way. And so obviously every day, it's not just that I want to quit. Sometimes I want to kill myself, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to kill other people on the team, And that's obviously a metaphor. Don't quote me, okay? Don't sue me. But having said that, it's not what you feel like doing, it's what you need to do. And I think if you're committed and you have a strong enough reason for doing something, you can endure almost any pain. And trust me, we've been enduring pain since before we even started this company.
Yeah.
And every
I
day
can
the
imagine.
pain gets bigger and harder to handle. But it is what it is. And we're happy about it.
Wow. So what advice would you give to your younger self?
How young? How long
It
ago?
depends where you
Pablo?
want to go back to, probably when from the day you started being an entrepreneur or...
Yeah. I would say learn how to say no more often. Okay. I would also say learn how to say yes more often.
Okay.
And most importantly, don't waste any time. Just keep on pushing. End of day, a lot of the times, it's not that you need to work on the business, it's that you need to work on yourself. And some of the biggest breakthroughs I ever had was when I started working on myself and on my own skills and on my own personality and on my own positioning. And that's when we saw the biggest breakthroughs, as I say. So for me, I would definitely give some advice to my younger self, which is don't slack. Not that I was a slacker, but just.
What do you mean?
I mean, look, you need to keep pushing for what you want. You need to keep pushing harder every day than the day before. Anything else is slacking,
Okay.
Okay. And I'm saying this to myself when I already had a business and was doing fantastic. But doing something like Haqq is just 1,000 times harder. And I love the challenge. And so for me, it's don't run away from the challenge, don't circumvent it, just face it head on and go through it. And that's the advice I would give.
Okay. It's quite interesting, but you have that spirit, that mindset. Where does it come from? You know, because I don't think you said something about being like an attacker or prey. شو اسمه؟
Missionary or mercenary?
Missionary or mercenary.
Missionary or
Yeah.
mercenary, yeah.
Yeah. So what makes you a missionary or you're a mercenary?
I'm a missionary.
Missionary. Okay. So hey, I really like
missionary
this.
is
I really
someone-
like this style. Yeah.
Let me explain the story. Yeah? So like a missionary is someone who really believes in
Yeah.
something, where he's, you know, evangelizing people and he's talking about it all the time. And the only way to get him to shut up is to kill him.
Okay.
Okay, that's a missionary.
Okay.
A missionary is a big believer in the cause.
Okay.
A mercenary is someone who gets paid to fight.
Okay.
Someone who's in it just for the money. Okay? And so the difference between a missionary and a mercenary is that, you know, a mercenary quits when he doesn't get his paycheck.
Okay.
Right? And a missionary
Okay.
is there just for the love of the game, just because they love building it.
Okay.
And so that's the difference between a missionary and a mercenary. And
I love that.
everyone on the team's a missionary.
Wow.
Yeah.
I really love that. And see, yeah, but my question was where does it come from? You know? Was it your education? Was it your environment? Is it Lebanon? Is it
You know, I think I love Lebanon. And Lebanon definitely teaches you to be a missionary because there's no money here anyway to be a mercenary. But it definitely teaches you to have a cause and believe in things. And I think that's partly it. You can't deny where you grew up.
Yeah.
But I would also say that I wasn't a missionary before Haqq.
okay?
I was not.
Nice.
And so a lot of the times being a missionary or a mercenary is about what you're being a missionary for.
Okay.
It's about how strongly do you like attach to this message? Do you believe in it? And so even myself, you know, I'm a missionary for Haqq. If I went and I started another business, I might not be a missionary. Okay. And I'm saying this quite bluntly. And it's because how much do you resonate between who you are and what you're doing?
Okay. That's amazing. You know, I've run through most of the questions that I wanted. And now I'm just talking about something like from my personal experience. You know, lawyers, and from the 7,000 lawyers that are on Haqq, and you also having a lot of legal experience before starting Haqq, lawyers experience all the troubles of people hands-on,
Hands-on.
right?
Right?
How do you sleep at night? How do they sleep at night?
How do they sleep?
Yeah.
Because I'm not a lawyer, right?
Okay. Okay.
But how do they sleep at
Yeah.
night? Well, I think how do doctors sleep at night when they
Okay.
see death every day,
Okay.
right? At the end of the day, it's your job and it's your career, and you can't really get too emotionally attached to it because if you do, then you're dysfunctional in other areas of your life.
Okay.
So I think it's easier for some, harder for most. But at the end of the day, any true professional would have to do it and would have to distance themselves from who they are and what they're doing.
That's awesome. So في هلا بدي احكي بس شوي عربي.
Yeah, go for it.
في كتير محامية و students بلبنان they really look up to you, انه especially the law students. شو بتحب تقولن؟ شو نصيحة بتقولن اياها؟
نصيحتي لكل شخص طالب حقوق اليوم بلبنان وحابب يكبر ويطور حاله is go full digital. One. يعني dive deep into technology, because إذا لا سمح الله AI takes over, you know, some portion of the legal market, the biggest winner will be a lawyer using technology, because that's the person who's going to take over the business من درب محامي ما عم بيستخدم technology.
Okay.
And that's one part. The second thing I would really encourage them is go global.
Okay.
Okay? Lebanon والسوق اللبناني خصوصا للمحامين okay is not even third rate, it's more like seventh rate. Okay, go up in the leagues. It's better
Definitely.
to be a junior associate working in New York for a big firm like Baker McKenzie or whatever it is
Okay.
than it is to be, you know, the king of your own law firm and you only have one client that pays you once every 2 years.
Okay.
That's my advice. Because when you're there, even though you don't have the position, even though you don't have the title, اللي عندك إياه هي a lot of challenges that force you to grow and force you to learn and force you to become better.
Okay.
Right? And then the third piece of advice I would give them is challenge everything. Challenge everything, question everything, find the right path, and go deep. Go deep in what you know, go deep in your skills, and really try and develop yourself. Think like an entrepreneur. You know, if you're a law student, and I really want to summarize things, you got to think like an entrepreneur.
Okay.
That's it. Growth at all costs.
Wonderful. So what's next for Haqq?
That's a fantastic question. I think, you know, we've been in 2 years where we've been hyperscaling, right? We went from 0 lawyers to more than 7,000, okay, in less than 2 years. And we're really glad and happy for all the positive impact we've had the opportunity to do for people all over the world. You know, we've connected more than 1,000 people looking for lawyers to lawyers. We've helped solve more than 1,000 cases by connecting these people. And we've helped more than 7,000 lawyers digitize. Next for us is we're really looking to make an impact in government institutions. We're launching very soon an e-court initiative where you don't have to go to the courts. You can just type it out on your computer. تحضر الجلسة غيابة, you know, from your house, etc.
Nice.
A full digital experience for the court systems.
Wow.
We're also doing an e-bar for lawyers where they can actually log in and interact with the Bar Association online. And we're really looking to just expand this message and evangelize it all over the world. We're already in 34 countries, and we want to make that 212 countries. We want to be in every single corner of the earth, and that's what's next for us.
Wow. And I really think you have the potential and the mindset to get there. And in 2 years, you got 7,000 lawyers on your platform. I think you like مسحت السوق, right?
I mean, we try and stay humble, you know, all the time because
that's why I'm here, because you deserve it. Like, Anjad, you really deserve
Thanks.
to like someone to really put that on a pedestal. And I'm sure everybody who used Haqq also as a user for legal stuff, and they got the best lawyers and the best possible options for them at the best rate, right? Because they get to compare different lawyers or no.
You know, we think the relationship between someone and their lawyer is a very personal relationship.
Okay.
We don't really get in the details. So we don't get involved. We just have the directory. It's a very neutral directory. It's very fair for everyone on the platform. And you can find someone based on what you're looking for, and then you have that discussion in private. But what I can definitely say is, you know, we have 7,000 lawyers. In the Middle East alone, there are 2 million. Okay?
Wow.
So that's 2,000 lawyers. We only have 7,000. So we have a long way to go, and I'm here for it.
Wow. Thank you so much. That was Antoine Kanaan, the co-founder of Haqq MENA. Please follow Haqq MENA or Haqq_MENA. That's it.
Haqq_MENA on Instagram.
On Instagram. Antoine Kanaan, your Instagram handle. Come on.
ANT1KANA.
Okay.
I think it's better if we put it in the
Definitely.
video. Yeah.
So please also don't miss out on the Kelshi Podcast in PodHub Beirut. So follow Kelshi Podcast, follow PodHub Beirut, and I am Paulo Khayat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paulo.
Thank you.